Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing some myth busting of full-time travel.
Yeah, we get a lot of people talking to us about different aspects of full-time travel, and sometimes they'll bring up situations or questions that people think are true, but they're really just not true. So we're gonna kind of debunk some of these problems that people think exist that don't really exist. And that'll maybe help you to be able to do some full-time travel quicker than maybe you thought. So let's just jump right in here. We got quite a few myths here that people think. And the first one is that you can't do full-time travel because of their insurance situation. And that's just simply not true. We do have insurance. We pay $241 a month for our insurance. It's a $5,000 deductible. And even though you just had major surgery, we still haven't ever met that deductible.
It's kind of crazy to think that you can get better and less expensive medical care outside the US, and even just what we pay for this insurance. When we had the equivalent of something like this for just the US, when we lived in the US, we paid over $1,500 for it.
Yeah, so it is pretty good, and the one thing that I think is really important about this is just the speed with which you can have something done. And that's definitely better than the US or basically most countries. Is that we were in Malaysia, we flew in, she saw a doctor, basically long story short, 10 days later she was out of surgery and back home and starting on the road to recovery. And we have a whole video on that on the channel if you want to see what that was all about. But insurance should not be a limiting factor. And I hear this a lot, like, oh, I have really good insurance with my job. I can't quit my job because then I'll lose my insurance. And if you really think about that to the end of the line, there are people who are working a job just to get insurance that if they got sick and couldn't work, they would lose that insurance, and so it really doesn't help them in the long run anyway. So at the end of the day, insurance is not a good reason to not do full-time travel. That is just a myth that that's going to hold you back. It is in no way, shape, or form going to hold you back, because even people with good insurance can lose their insurance. So for all of us, if you're an American, I don't know what it's like for other countries, but for all of us, if you're an American, your fallback plan is the ACA, the Affordable Health Care Act. So that's what you're going to end up doing if you lose your insurance, if you lose your job, or if you have something go wrong. So just not a problem that you have to really concern yourself with as much as people do.
Yeah, I think that is such a huge struggle for people, that thought process, especially like you said, you know, I need to keep working so I can keep this insurance, and then, you know, like you said, you get sick and you can't work, and then you lose your job, and then you lose your insurance. Yeah. There's so many incredible options out there anymore that it's just not a reason why it should hold you back from traveling full time.
Okay, second myth is that language is going to be a huge problem, big language barriers everywhere you go.
You know, with technology today, it's absolutely incredible what you can do with some of these apps and some of these phones, and through like Google Translate. There's just so much that you can do that it's really just not a concern anymore. And the fact that so many countries, so many of the people in the countries that, you know, you're likely to visit already speak some English. So you can go in learning a handful of phrases to get you started, to get conversations going with people, and then people will hop in and help you in English, which is really great. It's something that has been helpful to us in many countries.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild because we're in Thailand right now, and I've just been speaking English everywhere I go, and you just kind of get to this point where you assume the person you're talking to is going to speak English, and they always do. And like in Malaysia, they speak better English than I do. Like, they really speak good English there. And it's just not a problem. Basically, there's only one country we've ever been to where there was definitely a language barrier that you'd have to definitely do some work around, and that's Japan. They don't speak a lot of English there, and not a lot of stuff is in English. Been in pretty much every other country, and we've been to a lot of countries. Everything's in English. You're not going to have any problems unless you're going out to a very remote area. But language barrier simply doesn't exist. I thought I'd have to learn a lot of language. I wanted to kind of learn some of the local languages where we go. There's just no opportunity to do it because everything's in English. So
yeah, and so often when the locals realize, oh, you're American and you speak English, I want to practice my English with you. So
yeah.
then they don't, then they don't speak any of their local language, and they just spend their time speaking in English with you because they want to practice. This happens to us all the time, with shopkeepers and with taxi drivers and things like that, people that we interact with. Even in Japan, when people did know a few words in English, they wanted to practice those English words with us, and we were desperately trying to learn some Japanese because, that was one of the few challenging places where it has been, much harder as an English speaker to be able to kind of get around. But again, that Google Translate, especially with that camera feature, oh my goodness, it's so great. You just, put it right over what you're trying to translate. It translates it for you. So that's incredibly helpful. Plus, it also has the conversation option as well. This is not an ad for Google Translate. It's just what we use, and it's super helpful. And you can download the languages, so you don't need to even have service in order to be able to use it.
Yeah. So the next myth is that you should only be using one bag. And there's a lot of people that talk about only doing a carry-on or just, not checking bags. And I have to stop and I wonder, why is that? Like, is there some kind of prize you get for not checking a bag? Like, there's not. I checked. There's no special prize. And it's so easy to check a bag. Like, you can just take your bag, you load it up, you roll it out. Taxi driver is going to pick it up and put it in the car, get it out for you. You roll it up to the airport check-in, you give it to them, it's gone. Like, why would you not bring everything you want? So we bring all kinds of stuff with us. Like, we don't overpack, but we had a packing video on the channel where I bring my Xbox, I bring my computers, I bring my cameras, my lenses, our tablets. We just want to have the stuff. Like, I don't want to make a compromise when I'm on the road and it's like, well, I have to limit myself to this one bag. Like, why would I limit myself and live a life that I don't want to live when it's so easy just to check a bag? The whole one bag only thing makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, plus honestly, in a lot of instances, you're going to have to check that bag anyways, because a lot of like the local airlines in some of these other countries are not, the weight limit is not going to allow you to bring your carry-on only bag with you anyways. Actually, some of the overhead bin spaces are really small, like smaller than you imagine, and you can't even fit a roller bag into those, so they check them all in. So honestly, you're gonna have to check them in anyways in a lot of places. Throw an air tag or a tile inside there so you can track your bag. Ours have been without a, we've had ours like, misplaced a couple of times. They've brought them right back to us with no problem within a day or so. So it's really not a huge deal. It's not so much about bringing a ton of valuable stuff, but like Rob said, it's bringing things that, make you feel like you're at home at each particular place that you're in. We tend to stay in those places for a month or more sometimes, and that way we can unpack and we feel like, oh, we're, this is home.
Yeah, you want to be comfortable is the thing about that, and that's going to help you to do that. Next myth is that we hear this a lot. Well, how do you afford to travel full time? You must have won the lottery, and that's not the case. We never won the lottery.
No, and we didn't get some huge inheritance. That's the other one people say.
Yeah, that's
too.
the other one I say. Thankfully, all 4 of our parents are still with us, so we haven't gotten that huge inheritance. So the thing is that it's very cheap to travel full time when you don't maintain a house. Think about all the money you spend just maintaining your house and buying things for your house. And when you're just traveling, it's so much cheaper. You really start to count up like all the lawn care you're doing and just all the decorations you buy and all the little things you buy. When you're traveling and you only have the suitcase and the backpack, you don't buy anything. And that saves you, for a lot of people, that's going to save them a lot of money every single month. If you're a habitual spender and you have like, 100 pairs of shoes or something, or you collect stuff, then you're going to stop doing that because you can't drag that around with you. So that's going to save you a ton of money, and you're just basically going to be in cheaper places than the United States, which is one of the most expensive countries to be in. So you're naturally going to save money by traveling full time.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is going to cut out a lot of those things. Once you start doing the math, and we have a whole video here on the channel about that, once you start doing that math and realize, you know what, I'm spending way more than I should be, when you start adding in all those little things, like you said, your Halloween decorations, your fall decorations, Christmas, all those types of things, that costs you a lot of money when you add just those things up. And then on top of that, all of the other things are taking care of your home. It's a lot. So definitely a myth that you have to win the lottery or get some big inheritance to travel full time.
Yeah, don't get me started on all those Bath and Body Works candles you're buying that you won't be buying on the road. Although they do have Bath and Body Works here.
They do.
We did buy a candle, so only one. I shouldn't say that because we did end up buying one.
We bought one, but we used it.
Yeah, we bought one, but we didn't buy 10 like we would buy at home.
This is true.
Next myth is going to be that you'll miss your family. And you may miss them as much as you miss them normally, but like we see our family just as much as we did before we started traveling because we didn't live in the same state as all of them. So, we get back there and see them. When we go back, that's just a natural landing spot to go stay with family and see them. And our family has all come to visit us over here too. So our daughter just left here a little while ago. My parents came over to Thailand to see us, and we don't live in Thailand, but that's just the place where they decided to come visit us. Our daughter has also met us up in Athens and wants to come meet us in Italy. So there's not really a gonna miss your family type situation. We only were seeing some of our family once or twice a year when we lived in the US. Now we're probably seeing them more than that because when we go back, we definitely make a point to go see them.
Yeah, not only that, we actually have more free time and we can do FaceTime, and honestly, we text a lot. So that's really nice, sharing pictures and different moments and all those types of things. And the time that we get to spend with our families and our two children is our young adult children. The time we spend with them now is more intentional and I think more meaningful than the time we were doing before. And like you said, it's about the same amount of time because we didn't live in the same place as most of our family members, except for our kids who obviously lived with us at the time. But once they left for college and got their own places, they moved to two totally different parts of the country than they grew up in, and so we were visiting them anyways. So it didn't really change much for us, and it just made for better relationships because you have to make a little bit more concerted effort in order to communicate with your family members. So it's been really good.
Yeah. The next one is that you're not going to have access to your stuff, to your American stuff. And this kind of goes in two categories: your food and then also just like stuff to buy. And so like with food, you will have access to, if there's an American brand, they're here. They're everywhere in the world, and you're not going to have any problem. Like, we're in Bangkok right now. There's only one brand I can think of that is not here, and that's Chick-fil-A. So that one is
the one brand we want, Chick-fil-A. Somebody at Chick-fil-A, bring one.
But like, they have all of our restaurants. They have restaurants that we had that went out of business. Like they have Sizzler. Of course, there's a Toys R Us here still. They have all that stuff that we have at home. They have it here.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah. Walked by a couple Krispy Kreme donut stores the other day.
Of course, things like Starbucks and
Pizza Hut,
Taco Bell. We even saw a Taco Bell in Japan. Was not expecting that. But it was actually quite popular. There was a long line at it. It was at a baseball game at one of the baseball fields.
Yeah.
The Yomiuri Giants in Tokyo, they had a Taco Bell, and there was a pretty long line for it too, which was really funny.
So it's not that we only use American stuff, because we mostly don't. But there are definitely times when, as an American, you want that taste of home, that touch of home, and you can get it whenever you want it. And so if you're worried about, oh, I don't know if I like the food, you could eat tacos and pizza and burgers every day if you wanted to, in basically every country in the world. So that's not a problem. And just like even our own products, like we mostly shop local brands, but like we have a couple things here, like we got Ritz crackers, and I don't know why, we really like these Nature Valley bars.
Those are good for travel days.
Yeah.
These are from the last travel
Allie wanted like the Skippy peanut butter and Snickers, but they have stores, they have basically the same toothpaste, the same deodorant I buy back home, the same razors, every single product, they have the same product. There's almost nothing that we use at home that we can't get here. So
yeah, there's very few things that you're looking for, and honestly, you can, you know, like one thing we wanted, I remember one thing we had wanted, this was when we were in Malaysia. They don't do a lot of like biscuits, and in Asia, it's one of the places where we haven't really found biscuits, and we just really wanted, we were just really craving biscuits. And actually in Malaysia, we ended up finding Bisquick Mix, which was really awesome because it was perfect, because I was recovering there from my surgery, so it was super easy. But here, I can actually make my own mix from scratch, which is really great. So found all the products to make that and make biscuits. So you can, you know, find at the grocery store stuff to make the ingredients to make some of the things that you would make at home too, which is really quite nice.
yeah, if you have go to you know, like there's Apple stores here. If you need a phone, you need a watch, there's bookstores, there's video game stores. Sony has a store for camera equipment, and they often release stuff here earlier than at home. Like I remember a couple years ago I was looking at a lens, and it was supposed to come out January 15th. Well, it was like December, and I walked into the Sony store in the big mall here. They had the lens right there. I was like, can you buy this lens? They're like, yeah. They're like, you can buy it today. I'm like, okay, well, it's not releasing for another month, but okay. And then our daughter bought a book that wasn't releasing for another week, a couple weeks ago here, and she was like, I can't believe they had this. So sometimes you can get stuff, you can get all the same stuff, sometimes even quicker. So that's pretty good. Next myth is that you're going to get lonely or bored on the road.
That is the last thing that would happen. This one is busted right out of the gate. Everywhere you go, there's going to be so many cool, fun things to see. And honestly, it's super easy to meet people. It's not like you're going to run into, you know, you're always going to be just with locals, and you'll run into other people like you traveling around, and they hear you speaking English, and they're like, oh, a lot of times too, you'll be wearing things, like if you're wearing, you know, an Atlanta Braves shirt or hat, people are like, oh, are you an Atlanta Braves fan? Where, yeah, I went down to, actually in the yoga studio in this building that we're in right now, went down when I was videotaping the tour, and there was a lady taking a yoga class from an instructor. It was just her and the instructor, and I said, oh, do you mind if I tape in here? Went in, and then she started talking to me afterward. Turns out she was from Atlanta also. And they had just moved into this building. So you're gonna run into people all the time. I mean, you don't even have to be like a crazy, you know, extrovert person who talks to everybody. It's just going to happen naturally. We've met so many cool people all over the world that we have as friends now. And on top of that, you make friends with the locals as well. And that really is super rewarding, to be friends with local people everywhere that you go. It's been absolutely amazing. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, and then another myth is that you're going to miss out on entertainment options that you have at home. So, like maybe you like to watch college football like I do, or hockey or something, or you just want to see movies. It's no problem at all. You can see anything and everything you want. You can be involved in anything you want. The only thing that's a little different is the times they'll be on is different. Sometimes that's better, sometimes that's worse, depending on what you want to see. So like we just went and saw the Hunger Games, we went and saw Oppenheimer when we were in Vietnam. The movies release basically when they do at home, and the sports are all on. And there's really, that was one of my big concerns when we were considering doing this, was I just don't know that I want to go a year without seeing stuff, and can't really think I haven't missed anything, you know, in all the years that I've really wanted to see. So
yeah, not only that, we've actually gotten to experience some of the sports that we enjoy in other countries. You know, one of the things we did in Japan was go to baseball games, and man, was that so fun. We had such a good time at a live sporting event like that in another country. It was super cool. Plus you get to enjoy some of the local sports as well, like going to a Muay Thai match, you know, someplace like here in Bangkok and different things like that. So definitely not going to be missing out on stuff.
No. So I hope these myths that we've basically busted here for you haven't been holding you back from doing full-time travel. If they have, hopefully that changed your mind a little bit, because they really aren't things that should be all that concerning.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, if you have any questions, leave those down for us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.